Okay, hi. Okay, today I wanted to read again from the introduction of Governor Cuomo's book, American Crisis. I look hard because this is just the end of the introduction, which I had started in the other one. So our shared conclusion was that if we could somehow replay the game, we would play it much differently. My father and I agreed we would be bolder, take more risks, make more change, and make more progress by providing to the people that government can be effective and can actually make a positive difference. We've lamented the time wasted catering to this official or that official. I get it. The lost opportunities of an overly cautious legislator. Again, oof. The frustration of your bureaucracy that didn't move fast enough to produce real results for people. Oh Lord, but here we bargain up the same tree. If we could do it over again, we would get even more done. And those accomplishments would then build more support for government. After all, those nights on the couch in 2006, I was reborn when I won the election for Attorney General of New York. Dead politicians don't usually come back to life. I had a second chance, and I would do it right this time. As I called my father onto the stage that election night and held his hand high, I pledged that I would do it right for myself and for my father. How many times have I promised that to my father? I don't know if you can see. Yeah, it's not, you can't really, hold on. Oh yeah, there you can see it there. That's the, yeah, my father, he's been nice. Like that, I'll try and do it right for all of us. He went through during his life. The political pundits get to write the eulogy once you are out of office. And my father's political eulogy was essentially that he gave great speeches, but his government didn't produce major successes. Well, you know, that's not a fault of the people within government agencies who are dedicated to serving the people. It's a bureaucratic shit show. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And until that's cleaned up, no matter who you vote in office, doesn't matter. Because you know, shit show continues. The game playing, like in the ousting of Cuomo and so much I've seen, is until that's gotten rid of, you know, his government didn't produce major successes. They'll never produce major successes until you get rid of all of the bureaucratic bullshit. And this is, you know, since time began, it's just gotten worse under managerialism. My father and this narcissist, I mean, government agencies now are it's Hollywood, you know, it's before the government position was really boring. You didn't get up in a podium giving any freaking speeches or publish all of these books and all the hoopla that's going on in Berlin, because that's what it is these days, Washington. So my father was interested in the articulation of government principles, but not to the exclusion of government implementation. This is what we need, implementation. I will get, into a cocktail party, a dinner party, up on a podium, wherever you want to put me, and debate these guys till the cows come home on the philosophical issues, the theological issues, whether it be secular or religious, until the cows come home, whatever they want, but not on taxpayers' money, nor on shareholders' money. You want to do that? Do it on your dime. And I'll discuss it and I'll chew you up and spit you out like you can't even believe. Get it out of the agencies. And the HR bullshit acronyms, all they do is come up with another acronym and work plan or bullshit. Run a bunch of meetings and retreats and bullshit, 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 bullshit. Government agencies should be boring paper pushers who are serving the people. No glitz and glamour. No glitz and glamour to this job. You want that? Go to Hollywood. Get in a movie. I am committed to highlight both. Well, this is true. As I say, you want to sit there in a cocktail party or whatever party you want to put together and discuss it with me. Yes, okay, fine, we can discuss it. But I don't think for people who are serving the people, that should be done on taxpayers or shareholders' money. That's part of the job. It comes with the job. And, I saw some stuff about Cuomo's advisors, these guys in government who are getting six-figure salaries. That's beans of, if they're intelligent, a brain, know what they're talking about and know what they're doing, that's peanuts to what they could be earning in the private sector. So six-figure salaries for these guys, if they're actually producing results. They talk about results-based management, outcome. I mean, all the rhetoric is there. That's why I'm like, oh, you stick me up on a podium because we got the rhetoric, I go, as they say in French. So, okay. Oh my God, we got diarrhea of the mouth in Washington on the rhetoric. And trillions of dollars being wasted on it. So you need both. You need a discussion. But as I say, that comes with the territory and all of these people in Washington and elsewhere shouldn't be enriching themselves doing only that. And then the bureaucratic agencies implementing nothing. So it's a balance. I want a government that talks the talk and walks the walk. Oh, Lord, buddy. you and I are on the same page. I mean, I'm just like, to the point where if somebody comes out, one of these overinflated egos comes out with their rhetoric, I'm like, let me take that and shove it down your frickin' throat, and we don't care. We want you to start doing something. A government of principle that can also produce and improve people's lives, people's day-to-day lives. Ditto. I intend to serve as governor of New York as long as the people will have me. My daughters are grown, their education is paid for, and I can pay for their three weddings. Shows you where the guy's priorities are. After I'm done as governor, I want to help my children any way I can, and also buy a boat and go fishing. But for now, I have 19.5 million people counting on me. That is my priority. Ah, well, buddy. My thing is not a boat and go fishing. My thing is buy a horse farm and just retire with my horses. And animals and dogs and children and hopefully grandchildren and God, yeah. Nothing would make me happier. Unfortunately, my constituency is a lot more than 19.5 million. I mean, my constituency originally with global expats was, like about 300 million. And because it's not just Americans, overseas, it's anybody who is residing or traveling overseas. So actually, I guess it gets into more than 300 million. But now that everybody's gotten into it, it's a whole freaking planet. I didn't look for a fight with the feminists. I didn't look for a fight with the courts. I didn't look for a fight with anybody. They look for a fight with me. And it just happens to be, it's everywhere. So what are we right now? 9 billion? So yeah, as I say, I'm a Cincinnatius. I have no desire to be here. I want to retire to my farm. I guess we all have our boat and go fishing, or actually I do love boats. I'm into fishing. I'll cook the fish, but I don't want to kill the damn things. Or if it's our horse farms or our, vegetable farms and whatever it may be, I get it. Oh my Lord, the cacophony in these urban centers is so horrible. Anybody in their right mind would just want to walk away, which I've tried to do. I mean, that's what I say. I walked away from Washington the end of the 1980s. Everybody kept on looking for a fight with me, so I had to come back, and everybody here keeps on looking for a fight with me. So, I'm gonna stand on the ground until you people get your shit together. And I'll be happy to leave. Or happy to find a little farm. Watch you on the internet, observe you like I've been doing from my cave, the cave dweller of Washington, the Dowager cave dweller. Look it up, people, 1920s. Actually, maybe it was before that. This is the these were the descendants of the original colonialist who did not appreciate the influx of crass robber barons and industrialists and you know, well, in New York it was the Astors and the Vanderbilts that took over, but it happened in DC. I'm not sure of the names exactly, but this is when the robber barons took over the country. So yeah, I'm a cave dweller. And would love to retire. But yeah, that's as I say, I'll leave if everybody leaves shit together. Be happy to leave you to your shit show. And I'll watch it from afar. So come on, please, I understand where you're coming from, but I've putting up with this shit for 15 years. Oh, if not my entire life, yeah. If you walk away, they just come after you. There's a story with my father. My cousin, my sisters are throwing tomatoes at me. And I got a temper, and I guess I had been told that I wasn't supposed to like attack them and kill them for doing stuff like that. So I called my father. It's an emergency. We weren't supposed to call him except in emergencies at the hospital. It's an emergency, Dad. They're throwing rotten tomatoes at me. What do I do? Walk away. But he also taught me from my grandfather, he was the first white lawyer to successfully defend a Black man in the Deep South. This was 1910 in Baltimore, Alabama. And the prosecutor was a bully that he had known in the schoolyard when they were very young. And the prosecutor had told him, he said, we're hanging that N-word up dead. And my grandfather had told my father, in reference to a fight that he had with this guy in the schoolyard, he said, you know what? If you ever go up against a bully, get them to hit you in the nose, because it produces a lot of blood and they get really scared and they run off. And that was the prosecutor in the case. So as I say, you know, my father taught me when to walk away, when it's rotten tomatoes that they're throwing at you, and, you know, bullshit. And when it's time to stand up and take it in the nose and spray them with blood so they get scared and run away. Come on, that's what you gotta do right now. The only stuff is the blood is figurative in my case. I don't, yeah, my younger sister taught me, when we were very young, physical violence only gets you in trouble with the authorities. So if she couldn't push my buttons to get there, she was good boot camp along with my mother and my other sisters. So yeah, as I say, the blood that you got to spill out there is amongst the cackling hens, and figurative. So at the beginning of the crisis, I thought of FDR's words. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. There might be no good outcome, but that I knew I could not live with myself if I stayed in the foxhole. The right thing to do in the coming battle was to step up and give it my all. There could be no ambivalence. Total commitment is always the first step. Oh, Lord. That's exactly my sentiments for the past 15 and not 20 years. And actually, what I don't know who said this, but it was what I always quote is, courage is not the absence of fear, it's being afraid and going forward anyway. So then the only way to defeat the virus is for a united societal response where we all agree to protect one another. Like that happened. My Lord, I keep on saying, my God, if the American people, I mean, this starts at the top, but it was everybody, had complained about not being able to eat chocolate or put on lipstick or wear silk stockings after we entered into World War II, they would have been ostracized and spit upon within their communities like you can't believe. Everybody bitching and complaining that they can't go out and party. But the coronavirus is attacking us at an unprecedented time of partisanship and internal discord. Political, racial, economic, and geographic divisions are at an all-time highs, or at all-time highs. The nation is more divided than any time since the Civil War. I have to agree, but it goes back more than the Civil War. And I'm working globally, so, well, the West, I mean, you know, I do have Native American Indian blood in me. I mean, that's kind of documented with the Wilcox family, because the Wilcox family goes back to the you know, Massachusetts Bay Colony, the early settlers, David Wilcox, and there wasn't a genocide with the Indians, and there was some racial mingling, shall I say. And I mean, my father, my older sister, particularly, my brother kind of has my skin, but right now, I mean, getting older, it's not a, but for example, when I used to, you know, or when I was young, I mean, I get black, but it's a yellow tinge black. And I had a good friend, her mother was Eastern German and father Somalian. And we go on vacation, friend in Colombia, she, well, is married to a French diplomat, but friend in Colombia, we'd go on vacation together in Punta Cana. And, you know, I mean, her husband was so, see, this is the thing that we need to, you know, have a discussion about this stuff. Her husband was so freaking white, the poor man. I was always the first to get up. I'd pull out the Transats and stick one under the sun for him that would stay, under the shade, that would stay for him under the shade the entire day, because the poor man couldn't take any sun, would just burn to a crisp. I'm out there. She would say, oh my God, you're just as black as I am. I mean, it was a yellow tinge rather than her brown tinge, but we like laugh about it, and she'd be lathering up her husband with sunscreen. We'd go out, and he and I would go out and windsurf. The poor man, I'm like, okay, start lathering up because we're gonna go out in 5 minutes. I mean, the poor man, and he had to put on t-shirts. And so let's have I don't know, like an open discussion about different colors of our skin, and I don't know, differences in all of us from all different forms, without I don't know, like, I guess also having a certain humor about it, but also a certain, what's the big deal? One of my favorite lines from, it was, oh gosh, it was a remake on the movie with Sidney Poitier. There's something who came to dinner, and he's the black man, comes to the white family, and there's a remake with yeah, and I'm really bad with my actors. Demi Moore's second husband. Sorry. Kushner. So he's the white guy, and his girlfriend is black, and he's at the dinner table, and he says, you know why, you know how we can tell that that Jesus was white, or I think it's Jesus was white, something like that, and God was white, or God is white. And the guy's like, how? He said, have you ever tried to steal a rib from a black man? Now, this, of course, is American context of the situation, but the guy was like rolling over laughing. He said, okay, yeah. I mean, there's been wrongs on all sides, and women have been well, women and men, because one of the reasons why women have been so oppressed and silenced, that I've learned in all my anthropologic research, is that if you don't shut up there and constantly, I guess this goes back to Adam and Eve and eating the apple type of stuff, they just produce chaos everywhere they go. So it's not a question of shutting up women, it's a question of socializing and educated women and men to become responsible and productive citizens with a brain, because all children, whether they're male or female, when they're born, if you give them the appropriate socialization process and the love and caring that they need, they don't turn out as psychopaths and narcissists and crazy who are driving all of us freaking crazy. Just go on. I mean, I'm documenting every day. I got a new video of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in that group house I'm living in DC since well before the shutdown. But this is standard fare. This is the nice. Can't keep up. Place I've lived in, every place is filled with crazies, just as every place I've worked. So this is just an example of standard fare. Hopefully, you know, I don't know. At least I've learned with my 15 years of experience with the goddamn court on their systems is that I'm better to walk in there to defend myself than trying to find some frickin' lawyer. I mean, okay, I won't go into my issues with Cuomo's lawyer right now. But I'm gonna be seeing stuff that's going on there down the line. So I forget now where it was. Yeah, the nation is more divided than any time since the Civil War. The unity this nation has shown in the past when it was under attack, such as World War II, is nowhere to be seen. Well, I guess that's what I was saying. With the lipstick and the chocolate and the silk stockings, same difference. When we are united, we are undefeatable. When we are divided, we are vulnerable. Oh my Lord. I'm sorry. I'm getting angry. I mean, this is one of the things that I always tried to instill in my two sons, that united, because they're very different, but they're very complementary. They could do anything they want in this world. But divided, they're vulnerable. I mean, my family has never understood that. In fact, it's, Lord, go back to 2007 when my mother, friend or foe? Yeah, well, only met foes. So yeah, you know, when you're all divided, it's a very self-destructive path for everybody personally and as a country. And the macro and micro, I mean, what happens at the micro level translates into the macro level, and what happens at the macro level, you know, is also applicable to the micro level. All complementary or conflictual, like it is. So our ability to respond together as a society is dependent on the strength and the capacity of our government. You know, yeah, well, that's not happening. Government is nothing more than the vehicle for collective action. I agree. Collective action for good or collective action for bad. Good governance versus bad governance. Francis Fukuyama, Good Governance for the 21st Century, something like that, his book. He even demonstrates that Good governance is few rules uniformly applied. It's just like good parenting. I mean, I think my sons will attest to that, even after all of these years. And their friends, I mean, I remember one time some woman came to my house to pick up her son, and she asked me, she said, "How many children do you have?" And I said, 2. She said, "My God, why do I always see a whole slew of them running around all over the place?" I was like, well, I enjoy having them around, but also I want them here. Because I know in the other homes, they're for sometimes reasons of circumstances of parents where they couldn't provide, you know, a proper, how shall I say, you know, children who were even left during the day on vacations that shouldn't have been. But there, I have sympathy for a woman who is the provider who's had to leave an abusive situation and is providing for her children as best as she possibly can, even though James didn't agree with it. Well, anyway, so, you know, I do have, you know, there I have sympathy for children who are not properly given the proper vigilance. When the breadwinner, that usually is the mother who gets left with that, is provided with an impossible situation. So, you know, even if James was like, yeah, I'm like, I don't care. So, however, parents who have the means and are just too busy off, you know, keeping up with the Joneses or hanging out in country clubs, frivolity, there my patience runs its limit with these kids. So as I say, because there were both sides of the coin there. And however, I was always like, no, I want them here. One of the reasons why I don't work out, you know, I haven't gotten a job, or it was security reasons as well. I mean, that was basically it. But I mean, hell, we had more than enough money and means for me to stay home and you know, take care of my kids. I mean, Magdalene Orleans, she wanted me to, she was like, here, I've got a nanny for you. I'm like, I don't need a nanny. I need a maid. Friggin' huge apartment, 500 square meters. That is gonna be clean. No, I'm not gonna be able to do anything else with my day. So yeah, a maid I do appreciate it, but I'm not sitting at the country club, so I don't feel bad. I am doing stuff outside in society and for my communities. But no, I mean, I'm home every afternoon with my children. Okay, in the evenings we got dinner parties and all that stuff. But yeah, you know, if, I mean, not every freaking afternoon, because I've had, but 80% of the time, because And when your children are no longer 3 and 4 and 5, you no longer have to be, yeah, I mean, or because even at 3 and 4 and 5, they're starting to play on their own, and you just have to be around to make sure that nothing happens. But it's not like when they're babies 1, 2, and 3, and now you can actually like take a little bit of a breather and do some artwork or whatever, but you're still there, that when the fight starts, because you got a bunch of, you got a herd of kids running around playing, there's going to be some altercations. And I'm sorry, Mary Beth, but sometimes when we'd have to go out for dinner, and the kids would be there, and I knew they wouldn't be, and Mary Beth was never strict about getting them to bed. So I'd call, are they in bed yet? First call. Second call. We're at dinner parties and stuff. First call. Second call. By third call, if it was really getting late, weekends wasn't so, but one time I did call James, the bodyguard, our bodyguard. He was at the bank waiting. I said, look, James, they just won't go to bed. They just won't go to bed. And Mary Beth, they have to go to bed. Can you please go over there and restore order and tell them to get to bed? As I say, I only did it once. I wasn't going to abuse that with James, but he went over and he went in there asleep. At least James and I were always on the same page as to when a dictatorship is necessary. And totalitarian law needs to be implemented. Okay, I diverge. See, this is, I know a lot of you bigwigs out there are not going to understand the importance of this. This is some, wacko woman talk about putting her kids to bed. But the micro of the community, the society, the role that women play and in managing social orders is just as important as the men in the in commerce and politics, in the public sphere, if you will. So my point being that parenting and being at the same time a hands-on and always on top of you, always pendiente to your children is just as important as a government. However, not being in a way that's oppressive, but knowing when you're going to need to come in and step in and even send in the armed forces like James to say, sleep. Mary Beth is no longer in charge. Oh, and they knew that if James showed up and said something, if the instructions didn't come from me, I would have his back when complaints were filed. Yes, I say, it's much more amusing when you do it with children. I mean, the consequences, this is where socialite women have an advantage. The consequences of children not going to bed on time is not people in government agencies not doing their jobs and people dying. So our ability to respond together as a society is dependent on the strength and capacity of our government. Government is nothing more than the vehicle for collective action. Washington, Lincoln, FDR, JFK, these were great men made for the moment, or the moments made these men great. Well, can have a debate on the greatness of each one of these, but yes, in their own capacity, yes, that they were great men. At this moment in time, this nation is led by neither a great government nor a great leader. Total agreement. And it desperately needs one. Unfortunately, and believe me, I've been doing a global search for 15 freaking years. When I'm not talking off the cuff, off the cuff. Leaders that I've seen, in terms of government and possibilities to lead the situation out of where not only the US is, but the world currently. Keir Starmer, he's at the head of the Labour Party in England. I think he's a potential true leader, or as I say, all of these people need to step up. I know Prince Charles has been bashed, particularly, I thought it was horrible what Princess Diana did to him in her interview about, him not being a good future king. That was really passing over the line. The whole interview was, but I won't get into that. But it's not true. I think he in terms of his political convictions, he I don't know, not strong enough or whatever. This is the same rhetoric I heard back in the 80s. This was when, wasn't it Friedan? She was the first female vice presidential campaign. Oh, how could we even think of having a woman in office that she wouldn't be strong enough to push the button, the nuclear button. I'm like, we want to get away from, and this goes into back in the 80s with my thesis work on nuclear non-proliferation and all of my beef with Star Wars and the Cold War and that whole era. We want to move away from, let's have somebody in there who's willing to push the button. Let's have somebody in there who doesn't want to ever have to be in the position of pushing the button. One of my favorites was James, our bodyguard in Bogota. My kids, you know, they're young, and James always has a gun, and they're like, oh, yeah, hey, can we see your gun? And he was right. He said no, and he took it out, and he said, yeah, you can see it, you can touch it. And because with his son, he did the same. He, you know, because he said what's really dangerous is they're not allowed to touch it, and they find it and you're not around, and that's how the accident happens. So, you know, you can touch it, you know, I'll teach you how to use it. However, if you ever come across it, and he said his was always locked up, but if you ever come across it when I'm not here, you are not to touch it under any circumstances. You know, but it's because it's a lot of times you prohibit that. So my kids were James, would you ever pull this out, you know, and use it against somebody? And he said to them, he said, my job is to make sure that you all are never in a situation where I have to pull this thing out. That's my job. And you know, I mean, I always deferred to him because he was serious in that. And it's about, you know, crisis prevention instead of crisis management, whether it be at micro levels or macro levels. So, you know, we need leaders. Still, there is reason for hope. In this crisis, we see evidence that the virus can be defeated. New York State, a microcosm of the nation, has shown a path forward. We have seen government mobilized to handle the crisis. We have seen Americans come together in a sense of unity to do the impossible. We have seen how the virus is confronted and defeated. New York didn't do everything right, but there are lessons we can learn that will lead to victory. Yeah. I mean, you know, I always try to explain to my children and everybody, always going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes all the time. All the time. And it's okay. I mean, you know, as long as you learn by your mistakes and you're good intentioned in what you are doing. That's another reason why this whole Cuomo thing, trying to instill this norm of the intentions of the man or the person, anytime they might offend you in some way, is unimportant. Of course it's important. What is it? Not very good with my body. I believe in the principles of the dialogue. Forgive the trespasses of others as I shall forgive those who trespass against me. Something like that. As I say, I adhere to the principles of the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. I just have been an agnostic all my life because I couldn't believe that a benevolent God would produce so much bullshit and institutions in his name that would create so many atrocities. I mean, as I say, I've kind of come to understanding the how shall I say, the necessity for that, the conflict that has been injected into humanity in order to understand a lot of in order for men and women, the human race to learn some lessons and learn important lessons. It's been a long time. Been a long process. I think my family has been involved in that process in the past 500+ years. And I guess that's kind of what my work is about, a culmination of that process, an analysis of that process. I mean, you can agree with me or you can not agree with me. I mean, that's everybody's prerogative. But I do defend my right to express my opinion, and which basically also comes down to vindicating the Puritan movement, vindicating the works of John Dickinson, the founding father, John Dickinson, what the early colonists were about, just kind of what as I say, my father always said, our family has been combating and fighting the British crown since Elizabeth I. I think it was before that, I really do. But okay, yeah, definitely. And that goes with the Puritan movement, Thomas Wilcox, Admonitions to Parliament, the Puritan Manifesto, that was 1571. So yeah, if we look at it in that context, I think actually we go back farther, but look at it in that context, yes, definitely. And I mean, John Paul Jones. I always say, I think my geopolitical trajectory in life and my life story is much more similar to John Paul Jones, whereas my writing is much more John Dickinson, and vindicating him that we need a peaceful solution rather than another war. So okay. Okay, I'm going for an hour. Let me pull just one card. I haven't really done any cards. I don't know where this country's going. So this is the one that I kind of finished. This actually got scanned, but I've been working on my artwork. Otherwise, I'm gonna go crazy. So this is my Wonderland of Alice. This is the one I've almost finished as well, which is the jungle. This is very political. If anybody doesn't get the message on this one, I don't know if you can see the black, brown, yellow, and white women dancing there, and my little panthers, but it's definitely political. Well, This is, I'm still working. This is the one I'm working on right now. This, the mountain range there was the view from my bedroom growing up in Tucson. But these are the, of course, cactus and fauna, the fauna and the wildlife of the Sonora Desert. So that's how I try and keep my sanity in this. I mean, I'm on unemployment. Well, not collecting anything. I mean, waiting for them to evict me, and they say God's provided in the past. We'll see where that goes. But I mean, I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. I'm on my way out on the streets, homeless, yet I'm one of the most competent, informed people in this entire frickin' city. What I'm getting here is political persecution. And that nobody sees that. Not the lawyers, nobody. All right. Congressman Holmes Norton. Since I've been back, she's the congressman of Washington. Washington's a shit show. This comes under her purview. So, okay. Okay, the first one is John McCain, John McCain, 2008 campaign advisor Mike Helen, his first wife Carol Shep McCain, and then Megan McCain, Cindy Lou McCain, his second wife. Second pile is Alec Baldwin, 2008, A Promise to Ourselves, Kim Basinger. Third card is Olivier Blanchard he was the director of research at the IMF. This was in 2009. That's when I started working there. And it's about generalizing, accusing people of generalizing over isolated in what they call isolated incidents and seeing trends and patterns. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Okay, John McCain. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned this in the past. So when my case exploded in Spain and my ex, let's just say, the violence got to such an extent that I went and I filed a complaint with the police, the local police. And I can assure you it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. But I had, gone to his parents, told his parents. I mean, his father was even there one time when he said, before I let you leave me, I'll kill you. His father was standing there. And I said, would you listen to him? You want to deal with that situation if that happens? You don't care about me and my kids. You want to deal with what's that's going to happen? He just said, I don't get involved with a man and his wife. His mother said, que sera, sera. my family's response was not much different, and my parents, my brother came through October 2007 through Madrid. And I was like, you guys, I just filed a complaint against him. Everything is exploding here. I can't be a tourist guide. I really can't deal with that right now. No, that's okay. That's okay. We'll take care of ourselves. Yeah, well, that didn't happen. But you know, no, we're gonna come and help you. And I'm writing letters. I'm going down to the American consulate and the French consulate 3 times, each one all by myself when they're there, running around like a chicken with my head cut off, because they're sending me to here or to there. Nobody's helping me, getting to run around with paperwork. I mean, and the whole thing is drive you freaking crazy. So by the time you do get into the courts, you do seem like a basket case, because you are a basket case, because they made you run around like a chicken with your head cut off. And this is where I was asking, my consulate and my mother particularly, one of her good friends is he was one of the campaign managers from John McCain in the 2008 election, presidential election. And I was like, my God, Mom, with a case like this, I'm trying to start a company. I mean, I want to say it would fill the SDGs. It's basically essentially the same as all of the other expat wives clubs, but I don't want to just do another, bullshit organization that is sponsored by corporate money or, bullshit social climbing diplomatic corps, but something that's really for the expat people. I mean, that's where my constituency is with you in global expats. You got to work within your constituency on any different project. I mean, you can't mix apples and oranges. And so, I mean, if John McCain had come in, or, knight in shining armor, because all I was asking for was that due process be upheld, and that my lawyers do their jobs. I'm not asking for any favoritism. Unfortunately, everybody I know, everybody in the world, that's what they assume, because that's all they ever ask for. And if if you want to discuss that in court, I'd be more than happy to do it. Whether it be Jen Shaw, former Senator Bennett Johnston, Mike Helen and John McCain, who else was there? Ingrid and Astrid Betancourt. Astrid, by this point, was married to Daniel Parfait, who had been the ambassador in Bogota, the French ambassador in Bogota. They were in Paris before they divorced. That was the second wife. He went for the third one in Mexico. He just wants to, schmooze and cruise and have a younger and younger dumb bimbo on his arm. Now he's in the private sector. But he was an ambassador. He should understand. He should understand the liability and the obligation of French consulates, wherever they might be. Magalon Orleans is also in that. She knew. I contacted her. I said, French consulate, has to, I'm requesting the same thing from the American consulate as the French consulate. People are taking me for a ride. So, John McCain is a perfect example now of what is wrong in this country and Washington. Now, one of the things that I thought was absolutely horrible of Trump in the debates was, him attacking McCain and saying he was not a patriot because he'd gotten caught. I mean, that, as much as I disagree with the Vietnam War and all of the different wars that the Americans have been involved in, and everybody else, right? On that one, you guys, I'm all I'll argue on that one, whether it was from economic interest or honor and glory and stuff until the cows come home. So we can argue that. However, anyone who does that out of a feeling of patriotism and will not leave his men behind, you have to respect that. And anybody who spits on that needs to be spit on themselves. Whatever the motivation, that I might disagree that anybody went into that war. I love Muhammad. I'm not going to fight any Viet Cong. Never done me no bad. Kill some poor people over there that never done me no bad, and you guys won't fight for my rights in this country. I'm not gonna flee. You can put me in prison, but I'm not gonna go and kill no people who done me no bad. When you people done me bad. Something like that. But see, that's a classy man. That's a classy man. Not because he has any, fine high speaking or anything like that. That's a classy man. Poor thing, yeah. Got his brain beaten out of him. My thing with all of these contact sports, I'm like, okay, it's a step up from the gladiators, but could you guys please stop trying to kill yourselves? I mean, believe me, the martial arts, kickboxing, oh my God, I love kickboxing, but I don't always I don't punch anything or kick anything. So I appreciate the martial arts, and I think actually it's a really good thing because it really does it teaches you to defend yourself and control yourself and concentrate on a zen, but at the same time how to express your anger and be able to defend yourself if anybody comes after you, which is totally legitimate. It's just, the aggressive stuff. This is the thing. I'm not going to attack anybody, but you attack me, and oh Lord, you're going to lose. Yeah, I'm going to lose in any kind of physical fight. But in a Machiavellian cat game fight, oh, you bet your match, you little ladies. And anybody who sides with them is ill-advised, really ill-advised. Which brings me to frickin' Meghan McCain. Oof. The Five and The View. Let's just put it this way. I'm gonna be doing a colonoscopy on every single one of you in the propaganda and the bullshit on both sides of the aisle you've been propagating. See, this is John McCain. He was a real womanizer. Now, he did come back. After he came back, I think it was Vietnam, not the Korean War. I might be. See, I was young. Korean War is before my time. Korean War I know about from MASH. So anyway, after he came back from the war, he separated from his first wife, Carol Shett McCain. You know, apparently he was a real womanizer, and he came back and he was, you know, playing the field, and which I don't know, the experience that he had in the concentration camps, that's got to be pretty horrific to what it does to a person. So I don't know what he really was like before and after. As I say, that really does let's just say anybody who wants to judge anybody who goes through that experience needs to go through it themselves first. That's wicked shit. So then his second wife was this Cindy Lou McCain, dumb bimbo blonde, just like Biden's wife. Though the doctor, oh God, don't even try and impress me with your doctor degrees. Which produces Meghan McCain. So this is our icon. Oh, and then 2011 there was the John McCain Leadership Institute that was started. You know, I mean, you know, just one of the many game players. He's from Arizona. He's Arizona Republican. Now, I don't think ideologically he was ever a Fourth Reicher, but rather a pawn, just like I think Reagan was. Not sure who else I can think of Arizona, but my mom was a sport. You know, as I always say, my social media campaigning started when I was 1 year old. There was a hat that said Goldwater 64. That was presidential campaigns, if anybody's not. And for all of you young kids who Google Goldwater, I'm sure you don't know who he is. But and the really funny thing is with Goldwater, I do not totally disagree with everything that he has to say. And I'm not positive. I have to really look into Goldwater's, you know, background and biographies and things. But I'm not positive that Goldwater was really a Fourth Reicher. Just as I don't think Reagan was. He was just a puppet. And as I don't think John McCain was, but rather a puppet. But it's still Arizona Republican Party. See, this is where the deep state, everybody talks about the deep state and all of that. Nancy Reagan was empowered through the Arizona Republican Party. My mother, you know, she was a very minor player and opted out back in the 60s. Long story why. And would have never been. She was the president of the Republican Women's Club of Tucson when I was growing up. So, you know, I mean, definitely not somebody who was going to get involved in politics, and definitely, you know, the behind the scenes type of thing. And the only real influence that she's had, if you will, is opposing my political career, which, you know, which she's never understood, as so many other, is not the political career they think it is. When I came here in the 80s, it was to be a civil servant. I hate the limelight. It was just to serve. I mean, I'm a social person when people are worthy of socializing with. But when they're boring or abusive or stupid, I have no desire. However, my existence is not centered on socializing and getting in the limelight like everybody else in Washington. So, you know, a lot of the people who have been involved in the past 40, 50, 60, 70 years in where this country is gone and where the government is gone, they've been puppets of the different forces. But that doesn't mean, you know, that they are still I mean, you know, with privilege comes obligation and responsibility. If you don't want to do it, don't get in the game. So the second pile is Alec Baldwin, 2008, A Promise to Ourselves with Kim Basinger. Okay, I read this book right after I came back to the United States, and Alec Baldwin had gone through his high profile divorce and, you know, talking about the problems within the courts. I was like, yeah, Alec Baldwin, you're right. And I have to say some of the tactics, because yes, there was this whole thing came out with Alec Baldwin screaming at his daughter or something about her being a pig, or I forget. I looked into the profile of Kim Basinger, and pretty manipulative. Kim Basinger loves to play the victim. I think she's the typical, she was a beauty queen model type thing. I think very abusive mother, real control freak mother, who of course sided with Alec Baldwin. I mean, just like my mother did. That's kind of typical. And that's kind of the parallel also I wanted to try and talk to him about it and saying, wait a second, we got a real problem in the courts. And you're going through the same thing. It's just the flip side. As I just went through in Spain. And well, never got a hold of him. And his girlfriend at the time, by the time, he had been divorced from Kim Bassinger, his girlfriend at the time was a friend of mine in Madrid, Clemencia, who was my neighbor, who, she was very supportive. She lived just down the block, and she had been our neighbor in Colombia. It was funny because she had been our neighbor in the same conjunto with our kids growing up in Bogota. They had moved to Madrid because her husband's Spanish. They had moved to Madrid like a year or two before we did. And then we arrived there and we bought a house a block away from where they were living, which was great because both my kids are the same age as her children. Her eldest is a girl and the youngest is a boy, and both of mine are boys. But they, and so they were kind. So they had, some friends that they had grown up with in Bogota right down the street. And we spent a lot of time with them, and she was very supportive during 2008 and everything that I went through. One of the few people who didn't sign a letter against me and didn't hang me out to dry in the neighborhood. But, I was like, well, Clemencia, tell your girlfriend to tell Alec that this is a problem of due process, and this is a serious problem within the courts. Her brother-in-law is a judge in Spain. I was like, how does he not understand this? Her husband, he went to law school, he's a businessman, but I'm like, how do you guys not understand? For me, this is what's incredible, because Cuomo had the same reaction as I did when this shit show happened. Okay, his is political, mine was divorce personal, but it's the same manipulations. I was like, wait a second, you guys, this is due process issue. I don't give a shit about the he said, she said, the accusations that are happening or the context in which we're dealing with. This is a due process issue. And how you people, lawyers, this is your job. How do you not understand that? Or my consulate, my embassy, the American government, Congress? How do you people not understand that? This is what I want to see you in court. Explain how you do not understand how this is not a due process issue. That's what I want an explanation about, fundamentally. Because that's what it is. That's what I've been arguing. And you keep on telling me, shut up, stupid. Shut up, stupid. You're just a stupid trophy wife who wouldn't know anything. You're a stupid idiot. So, third card. Olivier Blanchard, he was the head of research at the IMF in 2009 when I was working there. That was right after I had started at the IMF Family Association, and I had seen a blog. This was an intranet, this is an interior thing, from him that was explaining the 2008 financial collapse. In terms of, technically what had happened, which if anybody wants to, well, The Big Short is a good place to start, by Michael Lewis. So I read the blog and I was like, well, yeah, that's That was fundamentally what I saw was going to happen when I was doing an analysis in 2006, end of 2006, beginning of 2007, on real estate currency fluctuations in Colombia, Argentina, and Spain. Not all at the same time, but it was 1990 to 2005. As I say, it wasn't, because the things happened at different times within Spain, Colombia, and Argentina. But I showed, because this was for the expat families, be careful if you ever buy, I'm sure I already went into this, if you ever buy real estate abroad, you're opening up yourself to real estate risk as well as currency risks. So I was looking at that and I was like, holy shit, this thing's gonna collapse. And I knew it was gonna collapse. So Olivier Blanchard, when he's explaining this, and he's basically, this is an isolated incident, the 2008 collapse. And I put in a comment, I said, well, wait a second. No, this is a trend that started back with Mike Milken in the 1970s of high risk, high yield, high risk, high yield. It was like, no. They're isolated incidents. I mean, I'm not going to get into a discussion. This is the IMF Family Association. I don't even have an account. This is the IMF Family Association email that I'm responding from. I mean, okay, it was info or whatever I had, which I could legitimately do, but I'm not going to get in there on a philosophical and economic debate with the head of the IMF research at this point. I do that later on down the line, but this is just at the beginning. But I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Something's wrong with this place. These guys are out to lunch. But what the thing is this is a tactic that is used at the micro level as well as the macro level. With Olivier Blanchard, we see how it's being used at the macro level and all the time. But for, the micro level, when during my divorce and before, this neighbor of mine, I was like, this is crazy. She'd always say, no, you're just generalizing. You're just generalizing. Whenever I would give any specific, and my family does this all the time, this is the sign also of an abusive personality who just wants to normalize abusive behavior. As I say, this happens at the macro level as well as micro level. Anytime you pull out an example of abusive behavior or violation of rights or some problem, the maintainer of the status quo, the abuser, whatever you want to call them, will just discount everything that you have to say as, oh, you're just generalizing. You're just generalizing. Or that's a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory. So they'll never address your contentions or what you're saying or your underlying proof or evidence of what you're saying. They'll just brush it off as saying, oh, you're generalizing. That's a conspiracy theory. That's fake news. the rhetoric changes, but the objective is the same, just to discount any kind of exposure of what's really going on. So let's see if I get something interesting with my cards. Mine are all aces and kings. I still see my pack. I still have a full pack of aces and kings. These guys' pack is getting really, really, really small. And that's just the Americans. I mean, there's a little bit of Europe included in there, but I just, I've been exhausted emotionally. Oops. Okay, they all fell out. Let's just take out the top. So I really, haven't advanced in my other cards, but what I want to do next, and what I need to do next, is Queen Victoria and her entire family tree, and show how the narcissism and the psychopathologies and the infighting of, she wanted to globalize and become the global dominator, but since it was done by hysterical, she was a hysterical woman, and narcissist, we ended up with World War I and World War II. So nothing interesting for me, just standard RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Patriot Act, Article 6 and 7 of the Rome Statutes, which is what I've been basing my challenging of everybody, of everything that's going on. I mean, you got to focus on, your specific area and how you're going to attack things, rather than being all over the frickin' map like the other activists. I mean, you can't get a consensus. I'm like, okay, what's your end game? What do you want to do? What's the objective here? Nobody can ever give you an answer. I mean, I'm very specific. Okay, the courts, we got this. I can challenge Gonzalez Carreño versus Spain, 2014, CEDAW, on this and that and this and that with the cases. I can challenge Gonzalez Linehan versus USA, 2011. Now, this is the defenses that were not accepted, but I can still challenge the defenses of the American government there. They say that they don't have control, therefore jurisdictions over their courts at the state level. Well, bonjour. I'm going to target that one on your legitimacy under the US Constitution, you guys. So get your shit together, because I'm coming after you. And what's going on in Washington? RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and Patriot Act. I'm very specific. I mean, it's like, you can't negotiate with terrorists. It's on the table. I'm here to play dirty. I came here to play nice. You guys want to play dirty with me? Well, then we'll play dirty. Well, narcissists, when they start seeing that they're losing, all they do is whine and cry. It's not fair. It's not fair. Oh, wait. When it's hardball with me, everything is permissible. But when I play hardball with you guys, oh, Oh, screw you. Screw you. So pile one, which is John McCain, Mike Helena. Suppress him, pinch him, off with his whiskers. As I say, you know, John McCain, you have to respect him where he needs to be respected. But suppress him, pinch him, off with his whiskers, particularly his whiskers of a little dumb blonde bimbo that's just cashing in on him and his name. So for Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, the prettiest are always further. Could this be Kim Basinger? Or is it Alec Baldwin? I don't know. So for Olivier Blanchard and generalizing versus seeing patterns, off with their heads. Yeah. As I say, I'm not into capital punishment, but figuratively speaking, everybody in the IMF and everywhere in Washington off with their heads and banished. Well, not everybody. You do that and we'll really have chaos. No, it's finding there. You know, we're talking about 10, 20% probably in this city are of good faith. Pretty sad, but I can promise you that my statistics are not off. From top to bottom. So for me, under RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Patriot Act, one would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. I don't know. Did they think that they would produce such cacophony that I wouldn't be able to follow? Oh no. Because usually I try and have some fun with collages for all of my blogs, and I've even gotten into this animation stuff, and I mean, it's, as I say, it's para divertirme, keep my sanity. But the 2016 spring meetings for the IMF, I forget how many blog series, at like 50, 52. Or no, excuse me. That was for the annual meetings. Because the spring meetings was like 52. The annual meetings was shorter, but it was around 30 or so. And I consistently had only one, no, you know, no motto, nothing written on there. It was just one photo, one image, and that was from F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. And above the garage where they had that publicity sign with the man with the glasses watching, which of course is you know, symbolically, you know, God watching. And that's the only image I posted. You can see everything I got else. I got collages all over the place, but not those blogs, because after the spring meetings, I had gotten their number. I had seen what's going on. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to delve deeper and deeper and deeper into this bullshit. And I just keep on. I mean, it is like going into a pigsty and you just keep on sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into the muck. Horrible, horrible Washington. More I look at the different arenas and the different areas, the more disgusted I am, and the more convinced I am that if we don't get some true leadership and to clean this up with the bureaucratic bullshit, which I do believe Governor Cuomo is capable of, with help. I mean, nobody can do any of this alone, but with the right people on board, we can avoid another civil war. But that's not going to happen as long as anybody who shows any kind of true leadership ability is you can take them down like that. So, okay, that was for today. I don't know. I just have my days where I'm like, okay, maybe we'll avoid war, but then other days where I'm like, that's what everybody wants. So, I don't know. I just pray to God that people start waking up and smelling the coffee. So, okay. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.